Joining me now for more on how Trump's trade war is impacting American farmers, I'm joined by Ohio soybean farmer Christopher Gibbs. Previously served as a county executive director for the USDA Farm Service Agency. He's a registered Republican and, in fact, serves as the chair of the local Republican Party and voted for Donald Trump, the president, in 2016. Mr. Gibbs, first, you are a soybean farmer. That seems to be the crop that has been most adversely impacted by the tariffs that China has put on in retaliatory fashion. How are things looking from where you stand?
Well, no different than the downward movement we saw since the president put the punitive tariffs on way back in March through July of 2018. At that time, specifically soybeans, we lost 20% of our pricing right there, which put us below the cost of production. We're now currently still below the cost of production quite considerably. I just calculated it today before I walked in here, about $25 an acre for new crop below the cost of production. So nothing has moved in the soybean market, and corn is about the same way, and that's also well below the cost of production. So we're not moving forward with any good trade.
So you mean that, I just want to make sure I understand this, for 2 years, 2 seasons that you have been producing below cost of production, and does that mean you're losing money on soybeans?
That means we're losing money on soybeans and certainly in corn as well. Certainly the administration has put forth the bailouts, I call it hush money, to keep farmers sedated. But they've put together dollars from the taxpayer, and let's be very clear, those dollars do not come from China, no matter how many times the president says it. Those dollars come right out of the Treasury, right from the American taxpayer and to farmers. And the only saving grace to that is that farmers do not sit on that money. They take it to the local hardware store, they take it to the feed store, they buy things with it. And when farmers buy things, we buy things, by the way, that are manufactured, and they're made out of steel, and they're made out of aluminum.
Right. It's a sort of weird cyclical conundrum. What has the reaction been among folks that you talk to that are in your line of work, that farm, and particularly in soybean and corn?
Well, certainly there's been support for the president in this throughout, and it's been, from my perspective, somewhat surprising. I got off the Trump train a long time ago, and particularly through this tariff fight. I've spoken out against this for over a year, but farmers have hung in there. They're tough, and what they were hanging their hat on was the president's rhetoric that trade wars are easy to win. Trade wars are good, and trade wars are easy to win. And I believe that the president probably told many of the commodity organizations and the advocacy bureaus that, hey, maybe 6 months, maybe 9 months, and we're out. And that was borne out by the Secretary of Agriculture, who said after the first round of hush money that there wasn't going to be any more. And then, lo and behold, the president comes up with another $16 billion that actually hasn't been dispersed yet.
I want to follow up on that, but question, do you just get a check? Like, is there a form you fill out that says we'll grow this many acres and they pay you per acre? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, two ways. Last year it was on a per bushel basis. Whatever you grew, just for soybeans, I think, I forget what it was, $1.67 a bushel maybe. This year it was different because there was kind of an uproar that other crops may not have been treated quite fairly.
Interesting.
So it's going to be just done by a per acre basis on a per county basis. So every county has a per acre, dollar per acre number. You go into your local USDA office, sign up and say, I planted this many acres of crops this year, and then money shows up in your checking account.
I mean, it's wild because if any candidate proposed that ex nihilo for some other group of people, like, I don't know, waiters, that like every waiter in America would just get a big check from the government based on how many tables they did in their shift, people will be like, you can't do that.
Yeah, you can't do that. You got to realize how much money this is. And certainly, I want to be very clear. It's appreciated, but we appreciate the taxpayers for it. And again, it's going to local hardware stores. It goes into rural communities. So the money's used, certainly.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's necessarily bad policy. I mean, better than, I guess, the alternative. But it's a strange situation to find yourself in. And I guess,
well, look at it in perspective. The president couldn't get $5.7 billion for a wall. Okay, but we did 12 and 16 billion just with a pen stroke. That's perspective.
Well, how about this? I mean, Paul Krug had an interesting column recently where he said, look, everyone, financial markets, international observers, the Chinese themselves, a lot of people, farmers, have thought this isn't going to get that bad, right? They're going to sort of dance around each other. There'll be a little tete-a-tete, and there'll be some deal, and he'll do what he did with NAFTA, right? Railed against NAFTA and then signed a thing that didn't look that different from NAFTA, and everyone gets to go home. But at a certain point, it really starts to draw blood. I mean, how long can this go on?
Well, it can go on a long time, certainly, but what I want to make your viewers aware of is this. You need to divide it into two different discussions. Mexico, Canada, Japan, the EU, those are all trade discussions. But when you talk about China, trade is a secondary or maybe even a tertiary issue of what's going on here. This is about containment. And that's what the president was never, ever forthright with the American people, and he was never forthright with farmers, that this was about containment. And I'll tell you something else. Let's say that there was a trade negotiation that President Xi just automatically calls up, since apparently he calls up all the time, and he said, all right, we're going to solve this thing right now. And we come to this grand deal over coffee and crumpets or whatever the President Trump does. And at that point, it'll be something else. Because it'll be Huawei, or it will be Hong Kong, or something. This is about containment.
Interesting.
And what the president needs to be square with the farmers with is that these markets are not coming back in this fashion. No matter how many soybeans they want, no matter how much pork they want, these markets are not coming back because supply chains have changed. Supply chains have changed, and they've moved to Brazil, and they've moved to other places.
All right, Christopher Gibbs, that was extremely illuminating. Thank you very much. I hope we can have you back. Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.